In the tense years following World War II, as the Cold War began to take shape, the United States found itself facing a new and unprecedented threat, the possibility of Soviet bombers penetrating American airspace. To counter this danger, the U.S. Army Air Force needed a new breed of aircraft, one capable of operating in all weather conditions day or night to intercept and destroy enemy bombers before they could reach their targets. Enter the Northrop F-89 Scorpion, a twin-engine all-weather interceptor that would become the backbone of U.S. air defense throughout much of the 1950s. Its distinctively elevated tail unit and high-mounted horizontal stabilizer gave it an almost alien appearance in the skies, a flying embodiment of the brave new world of Cold War aviation. But this unorthodox design was far more than an aesthetic choice. It was a fusion of aerodynamic innovation and tactical necessity, allowing the Scorpion to soar to stratospheric heights and reach blistering speeds. From its first flight in 1948 to its final mission in 1969, the F-89 would transform dramatically, from a conventional gun-armed fighter to a nuclear-capable interceptor. This constant evolution mirrored the escalating tensions of the Cold War itself, culminating in a weapon that could unleash the power of the atom from the edge of space, an airborne sentinel standing ready to face the ultimate doomsday scenario. In the aftermath of World War II, the global political landscape was rapidly shifting. The alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union, forged in the crucible of war, was quickly deteriorating into a state of mutual suspicion and hostility. As tensions rose, so did concerns about national security, particularly the threat of a surprise aerial attack. The United States Army Air Force, which would soon become the independent United States Air Force, recognized the need for a new type of aircraft to meet this emerging threat. The propeller-driven night fighters of World War II, such as the Northrop P-61 Black Widow, were no longer sufficient to counter the new generation of jet-powered bombers being developed by the Soviet Union. On August 28, 1945, the Army Air Force issued a specification for an all-weather fighter aircraft capable of fending off enemy bombers, even if they were to approach under the cover of darkness or in the midst of adverse conditions. It would need jet engines in order to be fast enough to catch up with jet-powered Soviet bombers and carry sufficient firepower to destroy them. It would also need to climb quickly to high altitudes, while incorporating the latest advancements in radar and fire control systems. In response to this specification, 8 aircraft manufacturers submitted proposals. Eventually, Northrop came out on top with their design, designated the N-24. Northrop's selection was influenced by their expertise in night fighter design, demonstrated by the successful P-61 Black Widow. The initial N-24 design was a sleek twin-engine aircraft with a slim fuselage and swept wings. This configuration was theoretically advantageous for high-speed flight, aligning with the Army Air Force's requirement for an interceptor capable of catching up with the latest jet bombers. However, as development progressed, this initial design would undergo significant changes. On June 13, 1946, the Army Air Force approved an initial contract for 2 prototype aircraft. These prototypes were designated XP-89, with the P standing for Pursuit in the designation system of the time. The original XP-89 prototype was a testament to Northrop's innovative approach to aircraft design. Every aspect of the aircraft was carefully considered to meet the challenging requirements set forth by the Army Air Force for an all-weather interceptor. The XP-89's most striking feature was its size, larger than typical for a fighter of its era. This generous scale was necessary to accommodate the complex radar and fire control systems required for all-weather interception, as well as to provide space for a 2-man crew. The cockpit featured a side-by-side seating arrangement for the pilot and radar operator, a configuration chosen to facilitate better communication during long, stressful intercept missions. In a significant departure from the initial N-24 design, the XP-89 featured straight wings instead of swept ones, providing better low-speed lift characteristics. The wings had an aspect ratio of 5.88 and a thickness-to-chord ratio of 9%. utilizing a NECA 0009 64 airfoil section. This combination was selected for its low drag at high speeds and stability at low speeds. Perhaps the most distinctive feature of the XP-89 was its tail section. The horizontal stabilizer was mounted high on the vertical stabilizer, well above the exhaust of the jet engines. This unconventional configuration served two crucial purposes. It kept the horizontal stabilizer clear of the turbulent hot exhaust from the engines, and it provided the stabilizer with clean airflow, enhancing the aircraft's stability and control. This unique tail design would later inspire the aircraft's nickname, the Scorpion. Powering the XP-89 were two Allison J35A9 turbojet engines, each producing 3,750 pounds force of thrust. These engines were mounted in the lower fuselage with intakes on either side of the cockpit. The engine placement necessitated a unique landing gear configuration with unusually tall, thin, high-pressure tires for the main gear and dual wheels for the nose gear. The original armament plan for the XP-89 called for four 20mm cannons mounted in a nose turret intended to provide the heavy firepower necessary to quickly destroy bomber aircraft. However, this configuration would later be changed based on testing results. The large nose section was also designed to incorporate advanced radar and fire control systems, although these were not fully installed in the first prototype. These systems were crucial for the aircraft's intended role as an all-weather interceptor, capable of detecting and engaging targets in conditions of poor visibility. On August 16, 1948, the first XP-89 prototype took to the skies from California's Muroc Army Airfield. Test pilot Fred C. Brecher reported that while the aircraft handled well, it lacked power. As testing progressed, Northrop addressed this issue by replacing the original engines with the more powerful J35A-21, giving rise to the F-89A. This version also featured a refined armament configuration with 6 fixed forward-firing 20mm T-31 cannons. The Air Force, which had become independent from the Army in 1947, placed an initial order of 48 units in July 1949. But only 8 F-89s were built as it became apparent that further refinements were necessary. The testing process took a tragic turn on February 22, 1950, when the second prototype, now designated XF-89A, crashed during a test flight due to tail flutter issues, resulting in the loss of one crew member. This incident led to a comprehensive re-evaluation of the aircraft's design. Northrop engineers conducted extensive tests and analyses, implementing several crucial modifications to resolve the flutter issue. These included adding a jet wake fairing at the bottom rear of the fuselage, external mass balances on the elevator, and exhaust deflectors on the fuselage. These improvements were incorporated into the F-89B, of which 40 were built. The F-89B, while still considered an evaluation model, featured upgraded avionics, including a new Lear F-5 autopilot and improved radar systems. These changes represented another step forward in the Scorpion's evolution, but the aircraft was still not considered fully combat-ready. Despite these ongoing developments, the F-89 Scorpion officially entered service with the United States Air Force in September 1950, with the 84th Fighter Interceptor Squadron being the first operational unit to receive the aircraft. However, the Scorpion's early service life was plagued by technical issues, leading to a high accident rate. In response to these challenges, Northrop continued to refine the design. The F-89C, introduced in 1951, featured upgraded J35A-33 engines, each providing 5,600 pounds force of thrust. This significant increase in power addressed the performance issues identified in early testing. The aircraft also received retractable inlet screens to protect against foreign object damage to the engines. In 1952, a series of incidents involving structural failures of the wings led to the grounding of all F-89ES. Northrop addressed this issue by reinforcing the wing structure and adding fins to the wingtip fuel tanks to reduce aerodynamic stress. These modifications allowed the F-89 to return to service but highlighted the ongoing challenges of developing and operating a cutting-edge interceptor. The F-89D entered service in 1954. This variant replaced the cannon armament with 104 Mighty Mouse FRs housed in large wingtip pods and featured a new Hughes E6 fire control system. In 1956, Project 6-Shooter led to the development of the F-89H, armed with 6 Hughes Falcon air-to-air missiles in addition to its rocket armament. The final and most potent version of the Scorpion was the F-89J. This variant, a modification of the F-89D, represented the pinnacle of the Scorpion's evolution and a significant leap in interceptor capabilities. The F-89J was specifically designed to carry and deploy a weapon that epitomized the tensions and technological arms race of the Cold War, the MB-1 Genie rocket with its nuclear warhead. The MB-1 Genie was an unguided air-to-air rocket with a W-25 nuclear warhead yielding an explosive force of 1.5 kilotons. To accommodate this powerful new armament, the F-89J underwent several modifications. The wingtip missile pods of the F-89D were replaced with 600-gallon fuel tanks, and underwing pylons were added to carry 2 Genie rockets. This configuration dramatically increased both the aircraft's range and its destructive capability. The F-89J's nuclear armament was a direct response to the perceived threat of Soviet bomber fleets. The idea was that a single nuclear-armed interceptor could potentially destroy an entire formation of enemy bombers, even if its aim was less than perfect. This concept reflected the strategic thinking of the time, where the threat of overwhelming nuclear retaliation was seen as a key deterrent against enemy aggression. On July 19, 1957, the F-89J etched its name in aviation history by becoming the first and only aircraft to fire a live nuclear air-to-air rocket. This event took place as part of Operation Plum Bob, a series of nuclear tests conducted at the Nevada test site. The mission, designated John, was designed to prove the feasibility of using nuclear weapons in air defense. That day, an F-89J took off from Yucca Flat, Nevada, piloted by Captain Eric William Hutchison, with Captain Alfred C. Barbie serving as radar operator. Their target was not an enemy bomber, but a payload of rockets carrying scientific instruments suspended from a balloon at an altitude of 18,500 feet. At 7 a.m., the F-89J fired the Genie rocket. 14 seconds later, it detonated, creating a brilliant fireball and the distinctive mushroom cloud associated with nuclear explosions. The test was a success, demonstrating that a nuclear-armed interceptor could effectively engage high-altitude targets. Remarkably, a group of 5 Air Force officers volunteered to stand directly underneath the blast to prove the weapon's safety for use over populated areas. While this display of bravado would be unthinkable today, it underscored the different attitudes and understanding of nuclear weapons at the time. The successful test of the Genie rocket marked a significant milestone in the F-89's career and in the history of aerial warfare. It represented the culmination of the aircraft's development from a conventional interceptor to a nuclear-armed defender. However, it also highlighted the extreme measures considered necessary during the height of the Cold War to ensure national security. In total, 350 F-89Ds were converted to the J configuration. These aircraft served with both the Air Defense Command and Air National Guard units until 1969. Standing ready to defend against a bomber threat that thankfully never materialized. The F-89J's nuclear capability, while never used in combat, served as a powerful deterrent during one of the most tense periods of the Cold War. The F-89's service with the active duty Air Force began to wind down in the late 1950s as more advanced interceptors like the Convair F-102 Delta Dagger entered service. However, the Scorpion continued to serve with the Air National Guard until 1969, a testament to its versatility and effectiveness. The Northrop F-89 Scorpion, despite never seeing combat, left an indelible mark on the history of military aviation. As one of the United States' first jet-powered all-weather interceptors, it bridged the gap between the propeller-driven fighters of World War II and the supersonic interceptors of the late Cold War era. The Scorpion's legacy lies not just in its role as a deterrent during a critical period of the Cold War, but also in the technological advancements it pioneered. Its development pushed the boundaries of jet propulsion, radar technology, and weapon systems, paving the way for future generations of fighter aircraft. Today, while the F-89 no longer patrols the skies, several examples have been preserved in museums across the United States, including the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, and the Pima Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona.